Collingwood go into 2004 after that disappointing grand final loss against the Brisbane Lions with some optimism, but nothing truly comes to fruition for the Pies in 2004 for many reasons. So let's unpack it all the way from selection, form, injuries, and then we're going to talk about the trade that broke us at the end of the year. Prior to the commencement of 2004, the Pies went to the national draft with a decent hand and selected Heath Shaw, which was a win for sure.
Back, Rebold in the middle, calling for the football. Schneider, will he give it to Rebold? He will. Rebold runs in, touched up the boot. Oh my goodness. Can you believe that? Wonderful chase by Heath Shaw. He came up behind him like a librarian. He never heard him. No surprise, everybody else in the library is shouting.
But outside of that, our first three picks prior to Heath Shaw in the draft played one game between the three of them. And that included father-son selection Braden Shaw, the son of Tony. We also traded out Heath Scotland, who moved over to rival club Carlton and ended up with 215 games to his name, and in return we got pick 35, who ended up being Brent Hall and played one game and was delisted by Collingwood after just 3 seasons. After the off-season work, the Pies go into 2004 and start the season 1-7, effectively ending Collingwood's tilt to make another final series and hopefully a grand final within the first 8 weeks of that season. It was attributed to by major form slumps, injuries, and all of this without a premiership hangover makes it much worse than what it could have been. Collingwood's older players on the list were beginning to succumb to injuries. We look at Anthony Rucker played just the 14 games, Nathan Buckley 15, Tarrant played 14 as a younger player, Simon Prestigiacomo just the 12. And all the while we were still trying to nurture these young players, Dane Swan, Nick Maxwell, Alan Didak and Heath Shaw. So it made troubles far worse when we're trying to tick boxes in different areas while also performing horribly on the field. So we're never truly able to recover from that horrific start to the season, and we end up finishing 13th, winning just 8 games. And at the end of 2004, we looked to make some trades using our prized top 10 selection, pick 7. Now this is what you guys came for. We begin the trade period at the end of 2004 by bundling pick 7 and Bo Nixon and shipping that off to Hawks in exchange for pick 10 and pick 37, which we ended up trading away to West Coast. And that pick 37 ended up being a 200 game star premiership player. But let's park that for a moment. Now I mentioned in that trade, we also gave away pick 7 to the Hawks. Who did the Hawks end up taking in that 2004 draft with Collingwood's initial selection at number 7?
Creates some run and he kicks towards Everett, towards Lewis, who kicks brilliantly to Williams.
And he goes to a one-on-one and it's a good contest and it's marked well by Jordan Lewis. Oh, what a good mark.
And good on him, he gets his first.
The first of maybe many for Jordan Lewis.
Just the 319 gamer, 4-time premiership player, Jordan Lewis. That was a 3rd selection for Hawthorn in the top 10 in that draft, essentially setting up the foundations for a dynasty in the very near future. They selected Roughhead with their priority selection at pick 2, and then they also selected Lance Buddy Franklin at pick 5, capping it off with Jordan Lewis at pick 7. And conversely for Collingwood on the other side of the spectrum, in this stacked top 10 in that specific draft, Chris Egan, who we took with pick 10, played the 2nd least amount of games in that top 10 of that year, just behind John Meeson, who only managed to string together 8 games for the Adelaide Crows. Now the question must be asked, why did Collingwood trade down from pick 7 to pick 10? Well, they wanted Chris Egan and they believed he would be available at pick 10 while also simultaneously trying to improve their draft hand and getting a hold of pick 37. Well, at least that's what we thought. Remembering now that we ended up trading pick 37 to West Coast in exchange for Chad Morrison, who ends up playing 21 games for the Pies, and West Coast go on to select with pick 37, Mark Lecras.
10 metres in front of Rawlings. He turns on the right boot and kicks a wonderful goal. Mark Lecras.
This is Stevenson, done some nice things. Lewis Stevenson for the Eagles. Lecras
Francis, who's away quickly, backed himself to do the business, and he does do the business.
And we all know Mark LeCras goes on to play 219 games, kicks 441 goals. That's 2 goals a game in the bank. He goes on to be an All-Australian in 2010 and plays a crucial role for West Coast in that 2018 Grand Final against Collingwood. Such is the lux of fortune in the national draft and how close you can come to selecting a future Hall of Famer like Jordan Lewis or even Mark LeCras, who is a highly respected West Coast player with a premiership to his name. For those who lived this time and can remember, what is your recollection of this period for Collingwood with the trades when we find out we've traded pick 7 for pick 10 and change in pick 37, which ends up being a really good return. Pick 37 doesn't usually give you a Mark LeCras in every draft year, but I'd like to pick your mind and see what you guys think. It's unfortunate, but this is the way it goes, and it's almost like the butterfly effect for LeCras being traded away, or his pick being traded away, West Coast selecting him, and then winning a flag against a team that could have potentially selected him at pick 37. Now the caveat is, if we had pick 7, would have we picked Jordan Lewis? Or if we had pick 37, would have we even selected Mark LeCras? That is a question we'll probably never truly know the answer to. As always, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I encourage you to subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Go Pies.